So today at the shop, I thought I'd talk about a hard drive repair for a newer iMac. So this iMac here is a 2015, and it's the slimline you can see right here. When we boot it up, what it does is the pinwheel just spins and spins and spins. We've run the disk utility on it, which indicates there's a failure of the hard drive, and so it's a few years old. We just thought we'd go ahead and do the upgrade to it, and then we will reinstall macOS, and it should fix the problem. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use the solid state drive. I don't think that there is a solid state drive in here right now. Pretty sure it's just a conventional HD. The problem with these newer Macs is this right here is glued in, and so the only way to take that apart on an iMac is with a what we call a little pizza cutter tool, and I'll show you what that is momentarily. So here is the pizza cutter tool. You can kind of see it. It actually has this end here that turns. I got this from the good folks at iFixit. I don't know if you can see that or not, but what we'll do is we take this and we stick it in here and we roll this all the way up. We work it all the way around, and that will loosen the glass. We take the glass off, and then we're able to put this in. All right, let's see what we got here. We're going to start down here. We're going to push it in. As you can see, I push it in, and we're going to roll it up like this. You have to keep working it. Come up and down. I feel like I'm on a cooking show. So, okay, I think I got it all the way in on that end. We're going to roll it around this way. You can see that around the top. Come back. The corner. We need to spin this around. We're going to come all the way around like this. Now, the older iMacs that are thicker, the glass is actually magnetic, and you can use a suction tool and pull that right off. It's actually pretty cool. Seems like as Apple has redesigned certain iMacs and Macs and so forth, they've made it harder and harder to work on. Okay, now that we've got this apart, we can get our fingers in there like this, and we can pull this apart. So that's what we'll do right now, and we'll be real careful. We're going to pull this down. Now, let me show you the inside of this. You want to be careful not to jerk any of those video cables. We're going to disconnect those, and then we'll be able to have room to get into the glass. All right, let me put some light in there, and you can see that there. Okay, let's set this over here. All right, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the other end of this tool and get up underneath. There's a little clip underneath there. You got to be real careful when you loosen these wires. It's kind of hard to see, but I got this one, and we're going to gently pull that out. Oh, also I failed to mention, you really should make sure you have this unplugged before you do this, because the capacitors of the power supply hold a charge, and getting zapped can be uncomfortable. Okay, I adjusted my camera so you can see in a little bit better. Here's one more. We're going to carefully pull that out. Now we can take this glass. It's glued around the bottom a little bit, so we're going to loosen it on the bottom. We're going to run this tool across the bottom a little bit. We're going to loosen this very carefully. If you lay it down, it eventually pulls loose. Take the same tool and cut in here. Okay, now what we can do is we really don't have to take the whole glass off. We can just lay it down. So we're going to carefully do that, and then I'll readjust the camera, and I'll show you. There's the hard drive right there. So that is a regular conventional hard drive, and what we're going to use is this solid state drive, 500 gig solid state drive by Western Digital. Picked up at Best Buy, under $100, and I think that will make this thing run a lot faster. Okay, now we're going to take out the hard drive. This is a Torx bit. It's a T9 Torx. We can loosen this up. Make sure you don't lose these screws. Let's take the brackets out there. Zoom in a little bit so you can see this better. Just make sure you know how to put the screws back in. Okay, now here's the best part of the video, unboxing. I love unboxing new stuff, although this is kind of a boring thing. But, oh, look at that, the light's much better when we turn it off. Hard drive, or solid state drive. It says here to remove this label before we install it, so I'm going to use a little razor knife and get behind that sticker. Oh, isn't that cute? They protect the gold leads. Must be a new thing they're doing. Okay, we're going to set this down here and come back to this in just a second. Okay, now the regular hard drive should pop right out. It's got these rubber grommets around it that hold it, a little sticky. We're going to pull this out. Take this off. Adjust this a little bit better. There we go. All right, now if we hold, oops, kind of hard to see. Let's see here. Okay, and there's the original hard drive. And what we're going to do is we're going to put in the solid state. As you can see, it has the same connectors. And it's a lot lighter too. Okay. So you got to slide that connector back on. Okay. There we go. So now there's the solid state. It's connected in. You can see kind of right there. Whoops. Right there. The SATA data and the SATA power connector. Next thing we need to do is put these little grommets back on to fill up the space. It'll allow it to set in here. So basically it's just a laptop hard drive inside this iMac, this newer iMac. Okay, and there you have it. Now you have that. We're gonna put these in here. Whoops, popped off. They've got some sticky stuff on it, which helps line it up, which is pretty nice. Okay. Now we have to put these brackets back on, and we'll be back in business. Almost. I think this goes here like this. If you have any questions on doing something like this, just please call our shop. We'd love to do it for you, but we do love to educate and explain things in a simple manner so you understand it. But at the end of the day, we are, in business here for service work, so we would love to do it for you. Okay, so normally I would take this iMac outside. We have a little station with the air compressor to blow out the dust, but it's pretty rainy today and I don't want to do that, so I've got this can compressed air. So you can see down into the fan is just really clogged up. So we're going to blow that out and watch our face. When we do that. There we go. All right. Normally Normally I would hit that with a little bit more air, but again, it's blowing right up in my face, so I don't want to do that. Okay, now we've got to put the screen back on, but if you remember, we cut the adhesive. So all the way around, let's do it over here, around this edge here, and all the way up here, and of course the other side, we need to reapply some adhesive. Now I've got this double-sided adhesive. You can get it on Amazon. This is about 5 centimeters wide, and it's sticky on one side, and what we do is we put it down and pull it, and then we take the backing off, and then we press the glass in. So I'm going to go ahead and put this on now. This is probably where we're going to speed up the video. Maybe not. Anyway, we're going to put a piece on there like that. Let me take my knife, cut that off. And then on this side here, I'm not cutting off the camera. Okay, and then that little piece right there, we will snip. Okay. Now we're going to take off that backing and use a little razor knife just to get underneath, kind of lift it up. Whoop, make sure that the actual adhesive stays on. There we go. So you can see the adhesive right there. Maybe you can see that dark. And so we're going to peel this off. We're going to repeat down here. Just pick it and then pull this off. Again, make sure that adhesive stays on there, all along there, along that edge. Pull this, and we're going to pull that up there. Some of that popped off. There we go. Okay, so now we have the adhesive all the way along here. You can kind of see that it's shiny, the new adhesive, and up to there. So the next step is to put the glass back on. Okay, so the next step is to reconnect the LCD panel and reattach the glass. So what we're going to do is lift this up, and then these are the connectors here. Be very careful when you put them back in. Actually line them up very carefully, and then flip this little lock lever down, and the next one is this connector. Hopefully you can see that, and we're going to slide that into, oop, can't get it. Let me try this side. There's some light over here. Okay, it's in. Okay, both connectors are in. Now we're going to take this glass and we're going to push it up and all the way around. And that ends part one of replacing or upgrading this iMac 2015 with a solid state drive. Part two is going to actually be to reinstall the operating system, and we'll do that in just a second. Okay, now that we've installed the upgraded solid state in the iMac, it's no good until we reinstall the operating system, because this is a brand new solid state drive. There's no operating system on it at all. So if we were to turn it on, let me show you here, you get the dreaded blinking folder with a question mark in there. So if you ever get that on your Mac, basically your hard drive probably crashed and we need to do this procedure. But what I'm going to do is I've got the latest version of macOS that I've downloaded and created this little flash drive installer. I'll save this for another video to show you how to do this, but you have to get a copy of the macOS operating system in an installable format. This iMac does not have a CD, DVD drive. It only has USB, so you've got to create a USB bootable operating system installer. The other caveat is not all versions of macOS can be installed on all Macs. We'll save that for another discussion. But I know that the macOS Catalina 10.15 will run on a 2015 iMac. So if I plug this in now, it will switch right over and recognize it and start the installation process. But normally what I do is I go ahead and plug in the flash drive first with it powered off. And I'll show you that. So on the back here, just take this flash drive and plug it in here. Then on the keyboard, you gotta love my ghetto keyboard here. On the keyboard, I hold the Alt key down when I power it on. And there's a lot of keystrokes you can do with Mac for diagnostic and troubleshooting with by holding down the keys when you turn it on. But today we're just going to talk about the Alt key. So what I'm going to do is I am going to hold this key down and I want to turn it on. You're going to hear the chime. And then what it will do is it will start scanning for bootable devices. Now remember, we've got the flash drive plugged in, so it'll see that. And there it is. It comes up, it says install macOS Catalina, and then we can choose our network. So the first thing we're going to do is come down here and we're going to pick a Wi-Fi network that's in my shop. Put in the passcode and connect to it. And it comes right back to the same screen. The next thing we're going to do, let me move this in a little bit closer so you can see this. Hey, there we go. All right. So what we'll do is we will click the arrow to continue. You know, one thing I just noticed was that there's smudge fingerprints all over this glass, so I'm going to use a micro cloth. Turn this off. Ooh, there we go. And we're going to wipe down this glass to make it look a little bit nicer. Okay, so once the flash drive boots up, you're going to get this screen here that says Mac OS Utilities. What we need to do before we can install the operating system is we need to partition the hard drive. And so partitioning is kind of like putting a fence around it. If you were to buy, say, 100 acres and you wanted to raise some type of cattle on half of the land and another type of cattle on the other half of the land, and you wanted to keep them separated, you might put a fence around 50 acres and just have those type of cattle in there, and then have a fence around the other half, the other 50 acres, and have a different type of cattle there. Same principle with partitioning, but we're going to put a fence around the entire hard drive, and the cattle we're raising is the macOS operating system, if that makes sense. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to pick Disk Utility, and it shows over here that there is there's internal, external, and disk images. Okay, so the only thing we need to be concerned with is the internal. This is the one. This is the drive we just installed. Now I previously partitioned this drive off camera, and you didn't see that. I wanted to test it, so that's why it's showing up right now, and it already has the Mac OS on it. But normally this would not be here. It would show internal, but it would just be blank. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to repartition it. We're going to click on the name of the drive, which is the internal. We're going to come over here and click erase. The name is going to be Mac OS, and the format is going to be APFS, which is the Apple file system. You might have a couple of other options, but on a solid state drive, you want to use the APFS format. It's much more efficient for solid state drives. Again, maybe in a future video, I'll go through the different partition types and so forth. There's partition types for Windows, there's partition types for Linux, there's partition types for Mac. But for what we're doing, solid state drive, Mac operating system, 10.15 Catalina, we're going to use APFS. So name, macOS, format, APFS. We click erase, and it comes up, does its thing, boom, done. Got a green check there. You can read down through the options if you're really curious, but basically you just click done, and now we have a partitioned hard drive. So now we need to get back to the previous screen. We're going to close this, and we're right back here to the macOS utilities. Now we can pick install macOS and click continue. Now we're going to get the first screen. It says to set up the installation of macOS Catalina, click continue. Little license agreement that nobody ever reads, so we'll click agree. Oh, one more. Are you sure? Yes, agree. Okay, now it comes up and wants to know where to install the operating system. Well, we want to install it right here. This is our new solid state drive. It's 500 gig, and it says 499.9 gigabyte. Remember, it's never exactly 500 gig. It's going to be a little bit less than that because of the space the system uses up. Again, we can talk about that in a future video, but right now we're just going to select that drive. We're going to click install, and then we sit back and wait. It says about 3 minutes remaining. No, it'll take about 30, but we'll stop the video now and come back to it as soon as it comes back to the next screen. So I just thought I would come back and check on the status here. Now it says 4 minutes, and it's actually been about 10 minutes. So basically we just have to sit back and wait, and when it rolls to the next screen, I'll resume the video and we'll continue installing macOS Catalina. Okay, quick checkup on the iMac on the status. It got past that phase and now it's rebooting, and we have the Apple logo on the screen and a status bar going across the bottom. So let's be patient, and hopefully we'll be at the screen where we can continue here shortly. Okay, moving right along. We finally got to the initial welcome screen. This took about 30 minutes. We're going to pick our country, the United States, and click continue. And we are going to click continue again. This is the select your Wi-Fi screen, so we're going to go ahead and pick my Wi-Fi. We fix stupid computers. We fix stupidcomputers.com. Agree to the data and privacy screen. Okay, so now we're at a screen where it says transfer information to this Mac. What you can do, if this is a brand new system, you just leave this as don't transfer any information and you click continue. And then what will happen is you can set it up as a new user, which is what we're going to do right now. Now, technically, I need to transfer data. So what I do sometimes, and what I could do, is I could click right here from a Mac, Time Machine, or Backup, or Startup Disk. And then what I can do, if I zoom out, I can take the original hard drive and this adapter. This is a SATA adapter to USB. And what we can do is we can plug that together and then plug this in the USB in the back. Then what we can do, coming back up here so you can see the screen, I can select from a Mac, Time Machine, Backup, and hit continue. The system will recognize this plugged in, and then it'll step you through transferring all of the data. Okay, but I don't want to do that right now. I'll come back later. That process is called Migration Assistant, and it's integrated with the installation. I can always run Migration Assistant at the end once we're finished, and I'll do another video on that at some point. But for right now, just to get through this, let's go ahead and select Don't Transfer Any Information right now, and click continue. Sign in with your Apple ID. Okay, so what this does is, if you have an Apple ID, it will hook your system directly into your into the Apple ID to help you quickly download things from the store and so forth. A lot of the vendors are doing that now. Windows does that. Apple does this. But I still like the old school way of just having a user ID on the system, on this system directly, and then coming back later and setting up the Apple ID. I don't like integrating the entire system with it. So what I'm going to do is, right now I'm just going to say set up later. Skip. Again, you can always come back in later through the system settings and add your Apple ID through the iCloud account. It'll work just fine. I just don't like my Mac to log into Apple at the same time I'm logging into the Mac. All right, we're going to hit agree again on the license agreement. Agree one more time, and then create a computer account. Now, typically what I do is I just type in a name here. I'm just going to type in owner and tab down. It puts owner right there. Password, I'm just going to type in password. I know that's a terrible password to have, but it's just an initial password. Once I give this device, this iMac, back to the customer, they can change the password for whatever they want. Right here is a little icon if you don't like the electric guitar, which is kind of cool. But you can change, you can click on defaults and come down here and pick whatever you want. So like, for example, I'll just pick a zebra for the heck of it and hit save. And now this person's login icon is a zebra. Hopefully they like zebras. I'm going to hit continue. And down here it says it's creating the account. Express setup. The features below will set you up and you can customize the settings yourself, or you can customize the settings yourself. I am just going to let these remain the same. You can read each one of these and decide whether you want it to do it automatically or not. Apple's very secure, so I just go ahead and let it take the defaults. I don't really let it bother me. Analytics, I usually like to go ahead and share crash and usage data with the app developers, because again, if the Mac application crashes, it'll send the crash data to the developers and then they can help improve it, make some bug fixes, so that doesn't bother me. I'm going to click continue. Screen time we will set up later. If you want to know what screen time is, just Google it. It's a new thing by Apple to give you a report of how much time and what you do on the computer. All right, this is pretty cool. This is the new look for Catalina. You have the light look, you have the dark look, or you have the auto look. So it's kind of interesting because Windows has always kind of been dark, and now they're going back to a light mode. Apple has always been light, and they're going to a dark mode. A lot of your mobile phones go to a dark mode, which is what Android had for the longest time. If you I like the dark mode. I usually just set it for this, but this is for a customer that is used to the Apple computer for years, and so I don't know whether they're going to like this or not, so I'm just going to leave it at light. By the way, if you set it to auto, then it will go switch between light and dark depending on the time you set, or the sunrise and the sunset. So that's pretty cool too. All right, we're going to go ahead and click continue. And then we get this screen, setting up your Mac. Check, check, check. All right, give it just a minute and it'll continue on to the final screen. And the final screen we have it is the desktop. Let me zoom back out a little bit, and voila, we have the macOS Catalina screen, okay? One final note I always do, we can go through training of macOS and Catalina later. That's not the purpose of this video, but one final thing I do is I always check for updates. So if you come up here and click on the Apple and click About This Mac, over here you can see there is an option for software update. I click on that just to see if there's an update, and I think there is. Yes, there is a macOS Catalina 10.15.4 update. Now, one note about this, I don't check automatically keep my Mac up to date, because I hate it doing something out of my control and then I come back the next day and I don't know what happened. So I always do the updates, but I do them myself, and I know when they're being installed, and that way if something screws up I can always come back and back the update out. Okay, so I'm going to install right now the 10.15.4 update. Click OK, or not OK, update now, and then right here, download and restart. And as you can see, it's starting to download, and it says about 15 minutes. So I'm gonna stop the video now. I hope you enjoy this. For sake of purpose, we've achieved our goal here. And if you have any questions, you can always email me at help@linlinks.com, or you can go to our website, wefixstupidcomputers.com, and send us a message. We're on Facebook. There's a lot of ways to get a hold of us. You can Google us and call us. But we hope this was helpful to you, and hope you all have a great day. Thanks. Okay, this is a follow-up to the macOS Catalina reload we just did. I thought I would do one more short video. We talked about doing Migration Assistant, but I said we can always do that later. I'm going to go ahead and do that now, and I thought, well, while I'm doing it, I'll go ahead and tape it and show you guys. So this is the original hard drive, if you remember, that came out of that Mac. This is an adapter, USB to SATA. And what we'll do is we connect these two together, and then we'll plug this into the back of the Mac, and we're going to run Migration Assistant, and we can transfer the user's data back. Now this is real helpful because the Mac that I worked on had the original user account, all their documents, all their settings, everything. And now it's brand new. It doesn't have any of that stuff. So if we use Migration Assistant, the nice thing about Apple is it will bring everything back exactly the way it is onto this new solid state drive. So we're going to take this, we're going to plug it into the Mac, and we're going to do Migration Assistant. Okay, we're going to turn the Mac around here and take our adapter and plug it in down here. And let's see what happens. Okay, now that we've got the original hard drive connected back to the iMac with the USB adapter, and we've got the new solid state installed in the computer with the fresh copy of the operating system, we're going to run a program called Migration Assistant, which will duplicate everything that was on the hard drive to this new solid state. So the way we do it is, as we already talked about, we plug up the original hard drive to the Mac. If we come up to Go and come down to Utilities, we find Migration Assistant right there. So if we just double click it, that will start the Migration Assistant program. Okay, now let me zoom in here a little bit. We're going to hit Continue. And of course we have to put in the admin password. So if you remember from the previous video, I set it up as password, P-A-S-S-W-O-R-D. Click OK, and that will go to the next screen. Now what it's going to do is it's going to scan for additional drives that are connected. Of course, in this case, it's the hard drive we just plugged up. And then it will ask us to transfer the data. So here we are, the main Mac, the Migration Assistant screen. Now, if you remember from the installation, this is what came up, and we originally said, no, don't transfer the data. But this time we're going to leave it with option 1 that says transfer from a Mac, time machine, or backup startup disk. So leave that checked, hit continue. And while this is running, I'm really liking my background groovy music. Anyway, what it did here was it found a Mac Pro. This is not what we want to transfer data from, but what it does is it scans the network. And I have a Mac Pro tower on my network, so it found that. It's called Grieg. We don't want to transfer data from there, so we're just going to wait a second until it finds the other drives. I'm going to pause the video and come back once it finds the drive we want to transfer from, and then we'll continue from there. Okay, so it came back and it found 2 drives so far. As we said, it found the Mac Pro that's on my network, which we don't want, and then it found this hard drive right here, the Macintosh HD, which is what we do want. That's the original hard drive before we installed the solid state. Now, interestingly enough, normally the USB icon is yellow when you plug in an external drive to Mac, and this one came up looking like a regular hard drive inside the system, but it's smart enough to know that this is a drive that we can transfer data from. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on that and click continue. All right, so it came up and says enter password to unlock this disk. That's because it's the original disk that was in here and it has a password. So the user gave me that password way back when before we started. So I put that in and click unlock, and we'll see what happens. Okay, after a few minutes of spinning and looking and scanning the drive, it came back with this. It wants to know whether we want to transfer applications, documents and data, and computer network settings. I want to do all of those. As a side note, if you only want to do some of the documents, you could click edit right here and just pick what you want to transfer. If you only want to do some of the applications, you can uncheck this. If you don't want to transfer any of the computer network settings, you can uncheck this. However, keep in mind, what we're trying to do is make this as close as it was prior to us doing the clean reload of macOS on the new solid state. So I'm just going to leave that there checked. I'm going to click continue. And it says start. This could take a few hours to transfer everything. The good thing about doing this, like I mentioned before, is that you get an exact clone of the way the system was before onto the new drive. But what can happen is if the reason we put the solid state in was because we thought maybe the hard drive was failing. So in the back of my mind, I'm always thinking we might not be able to do Migration Assistant because the drive's failing. So what we would have to do then instead would be to manually transfer the data by dragging the folders. And if that's the case, I'll shift gears and I'll show you how to do that. Or we also have, which I did not show you down here, we have an external hard drive and I believe the client was using Time Machine to back up her computer. So as long as that is working, we could also repeat the Migration Assistant and point it to Time Machine. So let's just be patient and see what happens, and I'm going to pause the video and I'll be back in just a little bit. Okay, so using the Migration Assistant, I was trying to restore from the original hard drive. It looks like the hard drive is bad and it's not going to read from it. So I plugged in the user's Time Machine, the external hard drive, and I rescanned for drives, and now it found iMac 2 on the left. And again, the one on the right that says Grieg is my Mac Pro server, and we don't want to restore from there. But the iMac here that I'm working on is on the same network. That's why it sees it. Anyway, let's go ahead and select this. This is the Time Machine, and click Continue. And what it'll do is it finds the person's name. We highlight it, and we click Next. And now what it does is it prepares the source. So it'll scan the Time Machine backup, and it'll find all the documents, pictures, music, all the settings, and it'll clone the original drive to this Mac. So I'm just going to let that run, and I'll check back with it in a few minutes. Okay, after a couple of minutes scanning the drive, it came back and it found the applications, the username, and other files and folders, and computer networking settings. This is good. These are all checked. We want to restore these back to this system, and we're going to click Continue. Okay, so let me put the password in for each one of these users. Okay, there's 2 users on this system, and I have to set the password for both because I want to make a clone of the original drive onto this drive. So right here I click Set Password, enter the password, it went to a green dot, and down here where it said Set Password, I selected that, entered the password, and it went to a green dot. So now I'm ready to do a complete restore from Time Machine, the Time Machine backup, to this system. We're going to click Continue. Oh, one more authorization. I have to authorize this person. I'm actually logged in as the owner, but once this is done, it's going to come back as the original user ID. So let me go ahead and authorize this. So I'm going to enter that password that we set up a long time ago when we first installed the system, and that authorizes, and now that went to a green dot, and we can click Continue. And there it goes. So it's going to transfer the information. It's going to take the entire Time Machine backup and put it back on this machine. And if all goes successful, once we reboot this Mac, it'll look just like it did before we upgraded the solid state. Okay, checking back in with our Migration Assistant on this iMac. It's literally been a couple of hours, and we see that we're maybe 2/3 of the way there. So as you can see, this can take a while, but if we're patient, the end result is wonderful, where it's an exact clone of the original drive. So we'll check back in a little bit. All right, finally checking back in on this migration, and it looks like it's complete. So we'll click Quit. And what will happen now is the system will reboot. Ah, look at that. It came back exactly the way it was on the hard drive. So that's the beauty of Migration Assistant. It's also the beauty of Time Machine.